right here. Here it go right here. Let me get it pulled up. You guys have to listen to this. Like, have to listen to what Cheryl Miller had to say. Let me rewind it back.
Shifting our attention to Indiana. After starting the season 4-2, the Fever have lost 2 in a row, and they're coming off a 16-point loss to the Fire yesterday. Cheryl, from what you're seeing, what's happening in Indianapolis?
Right now, there's...
Watch Stephanie White's lips closely in that exchange. Multiple lip readers have analyzed this moment, and the consensus is clear. She's not just saying defense. That's a coach losing composure with her franchise player on national television. And now ESPN's running segments on it. Fox Sports is covering it. This isn't going away. Here's what makes this significant. Caitlin Clark was in foul trouble that game against Portland. The officiating has been questionable all season. We've documented that. But instead of protecting her star player, instead of showing any kind of solidarity, Stephanie White chose that moment to publicly dress her down, like a high school freshman who missed curfew.
Frustration. I'm not like the best lip reader, but I feel like Stephanie White did say defense a couple times.
Now, I made a video and I said, Stephanie White said, get the F out my face. If you guys read her lips, she definitely swerved at Caitlin, like cursed at her, bro. It looked that way. Now, I could be wrong. I very much could be wrong. But it definitely looked like she's cursing at Caitlin Clark, scolding her almost like she's a damn child. And if I'm Caitlin Clark, mom, I am pissed. I am pissed. I damn near want to have a conversation with Kelly off the record. Don't you ever talk to my daughter like that. If I'm Mr. Clark, don't you ever in your mind think about...
Cheryl Miller doesn't hold back here, and she's naming the core issue. This frustration is spilling over in ways that are disrupting the entire team. When your coach has to tell your best player to sit down because the argument is too disruptive, when Kelsey Mitchell has to physically intervene and tell Caitlin to stand somewhere else, you've crossed a line from competitive intensity into dysfunction. But Miller's analysis misses something crucial. She says if they were winning, nobody would blink at that huddle conversation. That's true, but they're not winning. The Fever are 5-10 despite having the most exciting player basketball has seen in years. Despite selling out arenas everywhere they go. Despite tickets to their games costing $2,000 to $3,000 right now. They're losing, and the coaching decisions are a massive part of why.
But you finna talk to minds like that, because that's what type of moment this was. Bro, and it's crazy that this moment right here is being talked about on ESPN. ESPN is talking about this exchange.
And Caitlin Clark was in foul trouble this game, and obviously we know how things are being called. So I think it is a lot of frustration, but it's also like not that crazy. This isn't the first time we've seen this.
Now we're getting to the defensive issues, and this is where things get really problematic for Indiana. Multiple analysts are pointing out that teams are targeting Caitlin Clark on defense. They're running isolation plays at her. They're attacking her in transition. And the coaching staff's response has been to blame her rather than scheme around it. Sue Bird experienced this exact situation in her career. She learned every tendency of every player she'd be guarding because everyone has something they don't want to do, and you make them do that thing. That's coaching 101. That's what assistant coaches are supposed to be teaching. But instead of giving Caitlin help, screens, switches, defensive schemes that hide her weaknesses and emphasize her strengths, Stephanie White is letting her get isolated and then publicly criticizing her when it doesn't work.
It doesn't have some deeper meaning to it. I've had moments like that with coaches. I think it speaks to relationships. Player-coach relationships, like shout out Brian Agler. You could say anything to that man, and you could keep it moving. And then I had other coaches where maybe you couldn't, and you have to learn each other in that way.
But you knew the line. But you knew the line. When it becomes disruptive, and then when you and that's when even Kelsey Mitchell kind of chimed in and said like, you need to go stand over here and let us just regain the calm. And when it becomes that disruptive to the entire team, somebody has to step in.
Well, that's my question for both of you, because you've played on teams where they're high...
Iceballed, that's the term being used now. Caitlin Clark is being frozen out by her own teammates in crucial moments, and we've seen the evidence. Possessions where she's wide open and doesn't get the ball. Plays where she sets screens and nobody uses them. Defensive rotations where she's left on an island with no help. This connects directly to what's been happening behind the scenes in Indianapolis. The Fever spent their first offseason after drafting Caitlin not building around her strengths, but bringing in players who fit a different agenda. They signed Temi Fagbenle to an $800,000 contract, that's nearly half the team's salary cap in the WNBA, for a player averaging 6.2 points per game. They brought in Damaris Stantes. These moves weren't about maximizing Caitlin's potential, they were about something else entirely.
Caitlin Clark some help. Some screens or some help. But moving on to another part of this video, we have to talk about Jason Whitlock spilling the beans. So Jason Willock been on Twitter all day, all night talking about this Indiana Fever situation. Let me blow this up for you guys real quick. Let me blow this all the way up. So Jason made it apparent that Amber Cox has blocked me on this app. I'm right on the side of this issue. Now, shout out to hashtag Fire Stephanie White. I told y'all it's one of the best up-and-coming accounts on X.
Jason Whitlock getting blocked by Amber Cox tells you everything about how the Fever organization is handling criticism right now. They're not engaging with it, they're not addressing it, they're blocking it out and hoping it goes away. But it won't. Not when you're losing games you should win. Not when your franchise player looks miserable. Not when national media outlets are running daily segments about your dysfunction. Whitlock's point about the Fever 4 is the part that's resonating with fans. There's a perception, backed by roster decisions and salary allocations, that certain people in that organization prioritized personal relationships and political alignment over basketball fit. When you draft someone who sells out every arena, who drives ratings through the roof, who makes your franchise worth exponentially more than it was a year ago, and then you don't build around her strengths, people are going to ask questions.
Gods, in the form of the most exciting players basketball has ever seen. Instead of building a team around her strengths, they spent the first offseason getting DeQuitt Bonner and second paying Mo Billings $800,000, which we talked about that on the live. I'm gonna keep talking about my live, man. Y'all gotta go look at it. So then he went on to say these four women put the alphabet mafia agenda above basketball business. Your personal life should be your personal life. It should not be your business. These four women think fans are watching and paying thousands of dollars for tickets to see them, not Caitlin Clark. That's a problem. Exactly, bro. Those four women.
The comparison to Kelly Krauskopf's exit from social media last July is instructive. Kelly was the Fever's president when they drafted Caitlin. She took so much heat online that she completely disappeared from Twitter, Instagram, everything. Now Amber Cox, the current team president, is on a blocking spree. Same pattern, different person. But here's what they're not understanding. The fans paying $2,000 to $3,000 for tickets aren't coming to see the Fever 4. They're not buying Temi Fagbenea jerseys. They're not tuning in to watch Stephanie White's coaching philosophy. They're there for Caitlin Clark. And when you have the most marketable player in women's basketball history, when you win the lottery from the basketball gods in the form of someone who can transform your franchise overnight, and your response is to make her miserable, to let her get isolated on defense, to publicly embarrass her in huddles, to pay role players half your salary cap while she's on a rookie deal. That's organizational malpractice.
Stand over here and let us just regain the calm. And when it becomes that disruptive to the entire team, somebody has to step in.
Well, that's my question for both of you, because you've played on teams where they're high.
So Kelsey Mitchell definitely got in on it, told her to go stand over there. Bro, what? Kayla need to get the hell out of Indy, bro.
Expectations, you know what that pressure can be like. Are these moments actually impacting their ability to win games? That's the question.
Yes.
Is there more to...
The Portland game is the perfect example of everything wrong with this team's structure. They got off to a great start. Caitlin was facilitating, the offense was flowing. Then Portland made adjustments, started attacking mismatches, and Indiana had no answer. The defensive schemes didn't adjust. The rotations didn't change. And when frustration boiled over in that huddle, instead of the coach taking responsibility for not having her team prepared, she blamed her star player. This is a team that should be competing for a playoff spot at minimum. They have the Rookie of the Year. They have Kelsey Mitchell, who's been an all-star caliber player for years. They have Nalissa Smith, the second overall pick from 2022. On paper, with competent coaching and proper roster construction, this is a playoff team. Instead, they're 5-10 and spiraling.
Or the culprit behind what we're seeing take place in Indianapolis. And what's crazy is that court size tickets is like $2-3 grand right now. Like, I ain't gonna lie to you, bro. I've been looking. They're like $2-3 grand, and I don't know, Jay and John, like, they're willing to pay that for what I'm seeing, bro. 2-3 bands, bro. 2-3 bands, bro. Is it worth it? Nah, it ain't worth it. But get down in the comments section.
So let's talk about what happens next, because Thursday's game is critical. If the Fever lose again, expect the national media coverage to intensify. We're talking Fox, ESPN, major sports networks running extended segments on what's going wrong in Indianapolis. The pressure on Stephanie White is going to become enormous. The questions about roster construction and front office decisions are going to get louder. And here's the uncomfortable truth that nobody in that organization wants to acknowledge: they're wasting Caitlin Clark's rookie year. In the WNBA, rookie contracts are 4 years with team options. That means Indiana controls her rights through 2027. But her cultural impact, her ability to drive ratings and attendance, that's happening right now. This is the moment when everyone's paying attention. This is when you're supposed to build a winning culture around your franchise player, not tear her down publicly. Think about the message being sent to Caitlin every single day. You're the reason we're selling out arenas. You're the reason our franchise value has tripled. You're the reason little girls are buying WNBA jerseys for the first time. But when things go wrong on the court, we're going to blame you. We're going to let you get targeted on defense without help. We're going to freeze you out of offensive possessions. We're going to curse at you in huddles on national television. How long before that breaks someone's spirit? The comparison to other rookie situations in WNBA history is stark. When Diana Taurasi was drafted by Phoenix in 2004, they immediately built around her. When Breanna Stewart went to Seattle in 2016, they constructed a roster that complemented her skills. When Aja Wilson landed in Las Vegas in 2018, the Aces spent years building a championship core around her. All 3 of those players won titles. All 3 became faces of the league. The difference, their organizations understood what they had and acted accordingly. Indiana had that same opportunity. They won the draft lottery. They got the most hyped prospect in WNBA history, someone who was already a household name before playing a single professional game. And their response was to bring in Stephanie White, whose previous coaching stint with the Fever ended with her being fired after 2 seasons. And to construct a roster that doesn't maximize Caitlin's strengths as a facilitator and shooter. The defensive issues everyone keeps pointing to, those are scheme problems, not talent problems. Yes, Caitlin needs to improve her individual defense. Every rookie does. But when you're getting isolated possession after possession with no help, when the opposing team knows they can attack you and your coaches won't adjust, that's not about effort or skill development. That's about coaching staff failure. Watch how other teams handle defensive liabilities. The Las Vegas Aces hide players constantly. The New York Liberty run defensive schemes that protect their weaker defenders. The Connecticut Sun have built an entire defensive identity around team concepts rather than individual lockdown ability. It's not revolutionary, it's basic coaching. But it requires a staff that's willing to adapt their system to their personnel rather than demanding their personnel fit a predetermined system. And the offensive ice-out situation is even more damning. Caitlin Clark averaged 28.4 points and 8.2 assists per game in her final college season. She's one of the best passers in basketball, period. Her court vision and ability to create for others is elite. So why is she standing in the corner watching possessions develop without touching the ball? Why are there sequences where she's wide open and gets ignored? Either the plays aren't designed to use her properly, or her teammates are actively choosing not to involve her. Both scenarios point to massive organizational dysfunction. The body language in that huddle tells the real story. Caitlin's not arguing about playing time or shot attempts. She's frustrated because the system isn't working and nobody's adjusting. Stephanie White's not trying to problem solve or communicate. She's asserting authority through confrontation. Kelsey Mitchell's not mediating or supporting. She's separating them like a referee breaking up a fight. That's not a team. That's a collection of individuals with competing agendas trying to coexist. Jason Whitlock's thread about the Fever 4 isn't just trolling. It's pointing at a genuine issue that fans have been noticing for months. When you allocate significant salary cap space to players who aren't producing, when you prioritize certain relationships over basketball fit, when you make roster decisions that don't align with maximizing your best player's impact, people are going to question your priorities. And blocking critics on social media doesn't make those questions go away. It just confirms that you don't have good answers. The sad reality is that this situation was entirely preventable. Indiana could have hired a coach with experience developing young guards. They could have built a roster around Caitlin's strengths as a pick-and-roll creator and deep shooter. They could have brought in veterans who wanted to win and were willing to adjust their games to complement a generational talent. Instead, they made a series of decisions that have led to a 5-10 record, national media scrutiny, and a franchise player who looks increasingly unhappy. So where does this go from here? If Indiana loses Thursday, the pressure becomes unsustainable. Stephanie White's job security will be questioned openly. The front office decisions will face more scrutiny. Caitlin's future with the organization will become a storyline, even though she's under contract for 3 more years. And the WNBA will have to confront an uncomfortable question. What happens when the league's biggest star is being wasted by organizational incompetence? The answer might be that the league office steps in. Commissioner Kathy Engelbert has been vocal about Caitlin's importance to the WNBA's growth. Television ratings are up 170% this season, largely because of her. Attendance is breaking records. Merchandise sales have exploded. The league cannot afford to have its most marketable player looking miserable on a losing team with dysfunction visible to everyone watching. But intervention would set a problematic precedent. The WNBA has always prided itself on competitive balance and organizational autonomy. Teams make their own decisions, for better or worse. If the league starts dictating personnel moves or coaching changes based on star player happiness, where does that end? It's a delicate situation with no easy answers. What's clear is that something has to change in Indianapolis. Whether that's coaching, roster construction, organizational philosophy, or all three, the current trajectory is unsustainable. You can't waste a generational talent. You can't let dysfunction define your franchise when you have the player everyone wants to watch. And you can't block your way out of legitimate criticism when the results on the court speak for themselves. So here's the question for you. If you're Caitlin Clark's parents, are you happy with how this organization is handling your daughter? Because I wouldn't be. And if you're a Fever fan who's been waiting years for relevance, are you satisfied with a 5-10 record and national embarrassment? Let me know in the comments what you think needs to happen next, because this story is far from over.